Well, your financial advisor is recommending an annuity. How do you know if it's something that is actually good for you? Well, today we're going to take a look at how annuities really work, information that I don't even believe that a lot of advisors know. So stick with us. If you got a question, you can always go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. Send it in. We'll get you taken care of. Hope you enjoy the program. Well, do I need gold with everything that is going on right now? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon and welcome to the Prudent Money Radio Show. I'm your host, Bob Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you got a question for me, I've got an answer for you. Just go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. Once you get to the website, there's a link at the top of the page, Ask Prudent Money, and just click through that and we'll get you taken care of. Just enter your question and I'll get you an answer. That's off the website, www.prudentmoney.com. One of the things that I really want to make sure that we're doing at Prudent Money is being a resource to you, the Christian community. And sometimes I'll get asked questions and I just don't have a resource for it. And I try to meet as many people as I can and that are maybe practicing law, for instance, in different cities and different states. But, you know, that's a tall task to get that kind of a network up and running and knowing that many people. So I've never done this before, but I want to bring the request to you, the listener, that you might be able to help out this family. Is looking for a family law attorney, a custody type situation, and the attorney needs to be in San Antonio. And I've got, it seems like I've got connections anywhere but San Antonio. If you do have a referral, somebody that you trust, send that individual's name and number to me at info@prudentmoney.com, and I'll get it to this family who is in need of some legal help. I would really appreciate it, and if you don't necessarily know of anybody, maybe you could ask some friend that maybe lives in San Antonio or someone who's very well connected. I would really appreciate it. And you can just send it in once again. Go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. Well, it's Thursday, and that means I take questions from the last couple of weeks. You know, we talk about so many different things on Prudent Money and oftentimes run out of time and can't cover things in more depth like I would like to. So that's what today's for, is to ask some of these questions and questions that you've sent in. And I've had a firm belief for all the years I've done radio that if someone's got a question, there's so many other people that have the same question or some variance of the same question. This question came in and to the Prudent Money website, and it's, we are always reading that gold is the new standard and we must use it to protect our money. It is all so hard to understand. We do not have any 401k or IRA. We are both in our 70s and have VA disability, Social Security, and Texas teacher retirement. Not a lot in savings. Our house is almost paid off. What do we need to do to protect our remaining years? Your advice is always wonderful and greatly appreciated. Well, I thank you for that. You know, one of the things that you said in the email question is, it is all so hard to understand. Welcome to gold. And the debate is, will gold become a standard like it used to be that backed our U.S. dollar? And boy, I mean, this is one of those questions and those topics that are highly, highly debated. And I look at it this way, is that, of course, you never say never. I just think the probabilities are pretty low. That gold actually goes back and backs the U.S. currency or anything like that. But let's talk through it. And to be fair, gold is a metal, a precious metal that doesn't do anything. It doesn't produce anything. It is highly, highly marketed, and it generally has some beliefs associated and attached to it that it's a safe haven. And if you've looked at the gold through the years, you will notice that there are times when it hasn't been a safe haven. It's been a horrible place to be. And let's go there. Let's say that gold there's some kind of a scenario where gold is used as a backup to the U.S. currency or anything like that. I got to tell you, if that happens, we are going to be in potentially some serious trouble if that happens. So not necessarily something that I would wish to happen. And the thing that you got to realize is I mentioned this a while ago, is that the marketing of gold is pretty intense, and a lot of it, and a lot of it is the dollar's going to crash, gold's going to be the new currency. Well, let's talk through some of the issues of why I don't believe that gold will become a mainstream currency. Some of the obvious reasons: it's an inconvenience. Physical gold is heavy, non-transportable in large amounts for daily use, and impractical for modern digital commerce. Lack of flexibility. Gold supply grows slowly, which can limit a country's ability to respond to economic crisis. Political and institutional resistance. And I think this one has a lot of value to it. Governments and central banks rely on fiat systems for economic control, setting interest rates, managing inflation. And I think it's important. One point that I want to drive home that I think you got to consider is that the U.S. government has ultimate control over the money supply. Money in the United States, how much is in the money supply, how much is coming out of the money supply. They control the ins and the outs of that, which controls inflation, which controls a lot of things. And if you take that control away from them and you institute gold instead, they just don't have that kind of control that they did. Now, there's not a whole lot being said about this except, digital currency, and you hear a lot, of course, from the Trump administration on this, but you don't really hear a whole lot from the Fed, except that they are a long ways into the process of completing the creation of a digital dollar. And I think if I were to choose what's going to happen to the U.S. dollar if it goes away, my guess would be that we would be using the created by the Fed, the U.S. digital dollar, because they have still, well, not just ultimate control, they have way more control than they do now. That's not always a good thing. But control, as you can imagine, with the government, with policymakers, I mean, that's a big deal to always have the maximum amount of control, which is why they want to go to digital currencies. So, what I think at the end of the day, the Trump administration wants more control. They want a seat at the table with the Federal Reserve, and there's a separation of the Fed and government for reason. And it just gives the president or the administration who is at the time way more power than I think that we would like to see. So the battle continues, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But back to the bulk of the question. gold is I think it can be a good part of a portfolio where, maybe 15 to 20% max you could have invested in gold. I personally like the ETFs, the exchange traded funds that act like a stock. And you can find the ETFs with the ticker symbol GLD that follows the price of gold, because that's at least most of the time, it should be pretty liquid if you want to get your money out, versus physical gold may not be as liquid. The thing I like about your situation is that you're almost debt free. It sounds like you're going to be really close to being debt free once you get the house paid off. And then when you get the house paid off, you've got all that money that you've been spending on debt and principal to get rid of the mortgage, and that's going to be extra cash flow. So what I would do, especially after you get that house paid off, is start to accumulate more and more money in your savings account so you can take care of any emergencies that might happen. And I think too, also with the introduction of more money into your cash flow from paying off the house, you'll have a situation where you can keep up with inflation as well. So it looks like most of your money is coming from government type programs, which I personally, and there's not a lot of people who agree with this, but I think is a safe place to be. So I think you'll be fine. Just don't listen to a whole lot of the agenda-filled marketing that we call gold, and build up that savings account. And I think that you'll be in good shape. It's just when they market all the bad things that could happen to the United States, and that's why you need gold. It is on paper a very strong argument. It can give you a very strong argument. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. We're up against a break. Stick around, and I'll be right back. Hi, my name is Bob Brooks, host of the Prudent Money Radio Show. So let me ask you a question. Do you know your numbers? Now, which numbers are those? They are your retirement numbers. That set of numbers is the single most important planning numbers you can know. Yet the majority of Americans don't even know them. Prudent Money Financial Services, sponsor of the Prudent Money Radio Show, specializes in figuring out those numbers and creating a game plan to make sure you're on the right track. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show weekdays at 3 p.m. on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Hi, I'm Jill Taylor, inviting you to join me each Saturday morning at 11 o'clock for Choose Life Radio. You'll hear people from across America sharing their stories of faith, forgiveness, redemption, and restoration. Choose Life Radio will encourage you to fully appreciate the gift of life. You may also find help for you or a friend in need. So please join me Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock right here on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Weekday afternoons at 3:30 here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. I am going over questions that have come in, or questions that we receive based on the program that we, information we didn't quite cover or cover well enough. So I'd like to go back on Thursday and talk a little bit about that if we have a chance to do so. We did today, so I thought I would take advantage of it. Dear Bob, and I love this question, and I hope that when I get through with this question, you'll have a much better idea of how all this works. I hear all of these things, both good and bad, about annuities. Tell me from your perspective what is good and what is bad. Are they even a good option? I'll cut to the chase and say this, that annuities can be a good fit for the right situation. I mean, it's like anything else, like any other type of investment. It's just that when it's the wrong fit, it is a really bad fit, and it's hard to undo the damage, and it's hard to get out of the investment. So let's say that you get into this annuity based on certain circumstances that you believe are to be true, beliefs that you think are true. You find out that you are sold a bill of goods, and that what you thought, how you thought that this would work is not working that way, and you want out. And to get out, you have to pay a hefty surrender charge. So you add all that up, and it's not such a great deal. Whereas there's a whole lot of other investments. If you wanted to change course, you would just sell them and go do something different. So there's a love-hate relationship with annuities for sure. And they are very, very polarizing. And I know I won't mention his name, but there's one big financial planning group that if you said go to your computer and search annuities are bad, all of his information would come up. And I got to tell you, I've read all of his information, and a lot of it is I think wrong, quite frankly. And he's creating ideas that I don't believe are true. So you know if you want to find anything bad about annuities, just go to any search engine and you'll find it. And real quick, that bad news and that bad reputation about annuities actually was formed back in the late 90s, and in a horrible product called equity indexed annuities. And that left a really, really, it tarnished the annuities reputation. And so when people hear annuities, they don't know why they don't like them, or they don't know why they have a bad feeling about them. They just do. You got to know where it came from. And if you look at all the annuities that are out on the table today, they're much, much better products than they used to be, and they serve a certain clientele. Once again, got to get it right. So let's just start with fixed annuities. Those are loved. They should be, because they act just like a CD. They're just longer term, and they make more money, and they're guaranteed like a CD. That's not a bad deal. Now, we get into other types of annuities, there becomes the problem. But the two biggest problems with annuities, number one, the recommendation for a number of reasons is probably not suitable for the person that the financial advisor is showing the annuity to. And nobody really gets that or understands that, can't see that. And so the advisor ends up putting the client or prospect into an annuity when it was not a good fit for them. And you got to be as an advisor, you got to be really careful about that. And I'll tell you this, is that most advisors don't understand the downside to annuities, only the upside. Then number two, the expectations of the client have been built up in a sort of way that they're just not reasonable. If you take all the claims, the beliefs, the bonuses, the benefits, and everything, what these annuities are designed to do is earn roughly anywhere from 4 to 6% a year. Now, I'm not saying they will. It's just my personal opinion, but that's what they're designed to do. They they've been a good bond replacement, as bonds have not been a good place to have money as of last 2 or 3 years when interest rates have gone up. But someone but what they do in the marketing, and they show this in the illustrations, is these pumped up numbers, and people, they look at it and they go, I can get 8% a year without even any risk at all, and it's a hypothetical, and that's what it's showing. You got to be realistic, and the good advisors will explain. Well, let me explain to you what you're seeing and why it works how it works that way. So let's talk a little bit about how they're built. Annuities can come with all kinds of bells and whistles that are designed to make you feel secure, because really the baseline person that it would be interested in annuities, and it's really two different types of reasons. First, the first reason would be they want income. Tough to beat an annuity on income. But still, you got to get the right type of annuity, and one that is really fit, that just because they have the highest payment in guaranteed income doesn't make it the best choice. It really comes down to a lot of things that you got to consider. But income would be the first one, and growth would be the second one. Now, all annuity companies are working off the same numbers, the same types of financial instruments that go to fund these annuities. I mean, they're all working off the same ones. So what you have what I call a baseline for every annuity product that you've got. And the baseline represents the money that the insurance company is going to make, so they got to make money. And it also represents the expenses of the annuity, and it pays the advisor and all that. All that's the baseline. So everything on top of the baseline is there for you to earn and make that, and that's the benefit of the annuities, because you're there to earn that, everything above the baseline, which there's a limit to. Every single one of these products has a limit to it. It all comes down to how they put the program together, and they can do it in many different ways. But there are 5 main categories of benefits that you would want to consider and figure out which ones are most important to you. First one is liquidity. Are you able to get money out ahead of time, beyond the surrender charge period? Is it a good growth investment? Are the guarantees solid? I would say that the vast majority of annuities, the guarantees are very solid. Does it pay out income? Is it competitive? And then there's the death benefit. And so if a death benefit is really important to you, then there's a certain path I would go down and look for that particular product that fits what's most important to you. But you're really wanting to come up with a couple. A income-based annuity like an income-based annuity that pays out for the rest of your life and is guaranteed, is not going to grow that much internally inside of the annuity, because you're giving up one for the other. You can't have it all, and that's the one thing that I want you to make sure that you do understand. But if you want growth, and that's the most important thing to you, then you've got to pick the right annuity that's going to produce the most growth, or has the potential to pick the most growth, if that's the most important thing to you. Liquidity is a big deal for a lot of people, and that's in annuities. That's probably one of the last benefits I would look at, is liquidity. But it just depends on what you value the most, and how you want your annuity to represent that. The marketing is insane. There's one commercial that's running in a DFW, And he said, where else can you get a 30% bonus up front? Remember, they're choosing to spend their money on the benefits at big bonuses. So the rest of the benefits will not be that good. And so the 30% bonus that you get up front, don't let any advisor tell you that you don't get that that's not possible, because it is. And he basically says if they're telling you that's not available, then you're ruining your potential retirement and all this stuff. And it's compelling, but it's a little over the top in my opinion. But just remember, all these annuities are the same, just different bells and whistles and combinations of how they work. And that I hope that makes sense, because that is the problem, is that most advisors don't understand that. Hey, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. If you got a question for me, go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. Send that question in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.